Dear friends, today we have with us Liberal Senator Jacinta Price. Jacinta, thank you so much for joining us today.
Look, thank you for having me.
Yeah, Senator Price. I wish we were, speaking under different circumstances, but there has been a lot of, I would say, feeling of shock and distress, given your comments, especially because they've come after the anti-mass migration rallies that happened, and even in their manifesto, the Indian Australian community was singled out. And I'll briefly let you know why that has been such a cause for concern, because basically the Indian Australian diaspora is not even the largest. It's the British born diaspora which is the largest even today. And Indian Australians are a hugely successful diaspora. They are among the highest educated, the highest tax
Mm,
paying.
mm,
So overall they are a really successful diaspora. And
mm,
and there is a genuine sense of unease in the
mm, mm,
community, given the events that have happened. And when a politician of your stature makes a
mm.
comment which goes on like that, that's really been perceived very, people are very hurt. So I
Sure.
would want your comments on this entire issue.
Absolutely. Look, and I appreciate being able to have the opportunity to speak to you and to be able to reach out to the Indian community, particularly here, obviously in Australia. Look, my comments were never intended to be disparaging toward our Indian community, and I absolutely acknowledge the fact that our Indian community has made a massive contribution to Australia more broadly. In my position as not just a senator, but also in previous position as deputy mayor and councillor within my own community, I've worked closely with our Indian community in terms of being able to support visa applications, citizenship, but also we have there's a wonderful group of businesses in our community. One that I help support in terms of their application toward a liquor license to get their business up and running, and also, one of my sons was employed by a very good Sikh friend of mine who has a number of businesses in the community. And I suppose, aside from that, my children have Indian heritage themselves, and one of my sons actually spent 7 weeks on exchange at the Dun School in Dehradun when he was younger. So just want to put it out there. I cherish our Indian community. I have absolutely no ill will toward Indian people, Indian Australians in general. So I suppose, the comments that I made, that I was pressed on, I will acknowledge that I should have been far more clear on that. And I did clarify those comments around the fact that, yes, we do have a bipartisan, non-discriminatory policy in terms of migration in our country. And those comments I corrected, obviously, immediately. And of course, when it comes to those marches that occurred, it is absolutely wrong for those to certainly put pressure or give our Indian community a hard time. It's not right. And I suppose more clearly, my concerns are around the issue of mass migration more broadly. I suppose the concern is for families in Australia, families of many different backgrounds, including those who are part of the migrant community, that if the mass migration issue is such that it applies pressure to infrastructure, it applies pressure to our housing problems. We know that the government isn't keeping up with in terms of housing Australians, full stop, whether they're long-term Australians, migrants, or recent Australians. We need to get that part right if we're going to continue on a path of certainly steady migration, but right now there is a concern in terms of mass migration, and that relates to everybody, I suppose, in that regard, who are coming to the country.
Yeah. Senator Price, also, there have been calls by some that, although you've mentioned that it was a mistake, your comments, but some have asked you to apologize. Uh, so we would like to ask you that do you feel that, because many times even in our personal relationships, even with friends or
Yeah.
family, we say something which afterwards we just say sorry, because an apology sometimes goes a long way in healing, in terms of reassuring the community
Mm,
that their leaders
mm,
are standing by
mm.
them. So would you like to address that?
Oh, look, I mean, as I said, I suppose, the where I wrongly misstepped in terms of the comments that I made, I made sure that I clarified those comments more broadly, and as I said, there was nothing, I suppose, was disparaging toward the Indian community, and I certainly don't want the Indian community to feel like I have any ill will against anybody, obviously. But yeah, look, I want to continue to work closely with my friends right across the board, and hopefully that can continue to go as we go forward as well. Yeah.
Yeah, no, because we did a polling on our platform, and
Mm, mm,
because one of the things that you mentioned was that Indians, that you saw a report that Indians overwhelmingly vote for Labour. But when we did our internal polling on our platform,
mm,
60%, we asked our viewers, which party would they vote for if the elections were held today, and
mm,
60% say they would vote for Liberal, and 33 for Labour, and
mm,
I think 6% for Greens, and three for others.
mm, mm.
So obviously, like Indian Australians also, like all other Australians, vote on policies, and not not they don't block, they don't vote as a block.
Sure.
I hope you can understand why the community feels the way it feels, because there's
Yeah.
people are really feeling very uneasy, and they're feeling a sense of uncertainty and unease, that
Mm,
that
mm.
harassment against them or violence against them can go up
Yeah.
because of the events that have happened. And unfortunately, your comments around this time have caused a sense of unease. So what would you like to say
Yeah.
to the community?
Yeah, look, and I can acknowledge that this conversation, and perhaps even the way the media have continued to report on the issue has created some unease. And I will also acknowledge certainly that like the Indigenous community, not all Indian members of the Indian community think the same or vote the same, and I suppose I can stand corrected in that that was one group of polling that I had made reference to, and you've obviously conducted your polling too, which actually I find that quite heartening, that that there were those that would support certainly the Liberals and the coalition, and again I absolutely acknowledge that, and and for me going forward, I will certainly keep that in mind. I suppose I never really started out these conversations with the concept that all Indian Australians all thought the same or voted as a bloc, because I understand how that feels coming from somebody from the Indigenous community that's viewed in that particular way, and something that I suppose I've also railed against, which is why I stood against the Voice. So in the Voice referendum, was to highlight the fact that no, we don't all think the same, we don't all vote the same, and I will absolutely, acknowledge that that is the case with the Indian community, and respect that, and also. We'll take any kind of advice, I suppose, from many members from the Indian community in that regard, and stand up for should any discrimination be made against any members, any cohort of our community at large. And I think I've always been an individual who I take great pride in the fact that we are made up of so many different backgrounds. Publicly, I've always stated the different makeup, in terms of my children's heritage. I've always said, they come from, they have Mauritian in their background, which is, includes French, Creole, Malay, Indian, Chinese, Irish, Scottish, Welsh, English, all of those other elements. And I'm incredibly proud of the fact that our nation is built on those elements, from the First Peoples to our convict heritage and to our wonderful migrant heritage as well. So that is something I think is absolutely on the record that I've always been very vocal about. And any kind of discrimination in any form is unwarranted, and it should be condemned and called out. And I certainly did do that with regard to the marches that took place this weekend, and the marches that occurred prior to that were the pro-Palestinian marches. The extremism is not welcome in Australia, and certainly singling out of particular communities. And again, I support our Indian community wholeheartedly.
Yeah, and just to speak about mass migration, because as you mentioned that yes, I mean one should have discussions, debates about balanced migration, and what is good for Australia, and it's not about it's not based on race. It's a non-discriminatory policy, and that's why I just wanted to say, for the larger audience, that the reason why people of Indian origin are coming to Australia could purely be because they are skilled, because they are filling in that gap,
Yeah.
rather than anything else at all.
Look, absolutely. And, and the fact of the matter remains that there are Australians who, don't want to do particular jobs. And certainly, our Indian community does, fill those gaps and does a tremendous job in supporting our communities more broadly. And like I said, in the community of Alice Springs, where I'm from, we are richer for the fact that we have a wonderful contributing Indian community that I count amongst friends of my own. So, yeah, I mean, that's the truth of the situation. Mm.
So just, I would like to conclude, Senator Price. What would you like to say to the community? Because I can assure you that although it's very nice to hear you, hear your comments, but people are feeling distressed. I mean, there's no doubt about that. So what would you want to say to them?
Oh, look, I would love for people in the Indian community to understand that despite, there are a handful of radicals that exist, obviously, in every country they have them, but the vast majority of Australians do support our Indian community, and that was also on display on the weekend. I saw footage of members of the migrant community, and one or two of them appear to be members of the Indian community, arm in arm with the wide Australian community, singing our national anthem together. The overall sentiment is that we are respectful of all of those that come to our country, and want to work cohesively with one another around the country. And you can be assured that there is, for every person that says something disparaging, there are many, many, many more that will stand alongside our wonderful Indian community. And I hope to have the opportunity to meet, I guess, in person with those that certainly have been concerned after what's occurred in the last few days, last week or so, to have face-to-face meetings with those, and to bring community together to have these conversations, I think is really important as well. But I know myself and my coalition colleagues are absolutely behind you and in your corner, and are always prepared and ready to have meetings, have conversations, and engage in that regard.
Senator Jacinta Price, thank you so much for taking out your time and speaking with us today. Thank you so much.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to, and hopefully we can meet in person one day. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.